Are you saying that a woman can never make you happy?
A woman can make you happy, but she's not going to be my source of happiness. I should be happy myself and go into a relationship to share that happiness with her. We're creating a generation of weak, pathetic losers is what we're doing. We're creating losers. All right? Losers who don't get laid, who watch fucking porno, but spend $50 a fucking year on OnlyFans, who buy porno premiums accounts, who have Brazzers accounts. We're creating fucking jacking off in the left and right hand losers. It's bullshit. It is utterly bullshit, and I'm tired of seeing it. I am tired of kids complaining about being coached hard, having to run sprints after practice because you fucked up, didn't make the grades. You're fucking talking back to coaches. You're talking back to your parents. You're talking back to your teachers. You're talking back to grown adults. You don't have no sense of respect. You don't have any respect for authority. I'm tired of seeing it. It's become a problem. It's going to continue to be a problem until parents step up. And that's a lot of parents our age. Step up and parent your children like our parents did. Whoop your child. Took my mom one time to whoop my ass. That's it. They instilled in me that a man does what a man has to do. What are you doing to make yourself healthier and better as a man? What actions are you taking? And just like that, folks, welcome back to UnWoKeN, the #1 podcast in the world for young conservative media. That's a fact. My facts, of course, the only ones that fucking matter anyway. Here today with Mr. Alex Meja. Oh, this is going to be an interesting one. Very interesting. This is a very intellectual human being.
I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
Carter, you want to hop in?
No.
Thanks.
That's an intellectual man.
Dude, so we were talking today. Fresh and Fit podcast.
Yes.
You don't like it?
It's not that I dislike them. I dislike the way that they conduct their podcast.
All right, explain.
So, like, all right, so that's a lot. So it's like multiple reasons. Every single time, like,
keep
I'm not going to
keep in mind, we're on a time frame.
Okay. So I guess to get it short and sweet to the point, there's three things that I just disagree with. It's the way that they conduct their arguments, the fact that they push for, not push, what's a better way to put that? Just they have to emphasize the fact that they're right, and the fact that they believe that because they can look up information to confirm whatever bias that they have means that they're right. And it's like, well, I just don't think any of that, I would say, is, in my personal opinion, I wouldn't do that in a conversation, let alone a podcast. Because it's like, why would you invite someone to come onto your podcast just to convince them that you're right in your perspective? Why would you do that? That's a bit ridiculous, in my opinion. It's like, I'm right, and you don't like that. So you're getting all in your feelings just because you realize that I'm right, and you don't like that. It's like, what's the point in having a conversation with someone like that? I don't know. I just don't feel like I just don't agree with it.
So I was listening to their one where they had the 3 OnlyFans models on the way here.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me that they do have a lot of these girls on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And what they try to explain to you is that your income right now is seasonal.
Mm-hmm.
Because the next week is going to be the next hottest girl there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's your take on that? Because you're saying they invite people on that they want to prove that they're right about something.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they go about it the wrong way by incorporating the fact that they're coming out at you like, this is seasonal? You're not going to be the top 1% in OnlyFans the next year or so. Yeah, make your money while you can now, but you're not going to be hot in 10 years. Do you think that's how they're going about every single argument that they have or every single debate, in your opinion?
What do you mean?
So they invite these girls who have the OnlyFans on that are top 5% in their category. Then they invite Kevin Spencer on. You know who I'm talking about?
Not really.
The guy on the phone, the millionaire who provides a lot of business.
Yeah. I thought his name was Kevin Samuels.
Kevin Samuels, yeah, you're correct. You're correct.
Yeah.
They invite Kevin Samuels back on. And he comes at them with the same thing. But the way I found that they go about it is these girls get on the offensive every time or the defensive every time. And if they're trying to tell you, like, look, what you're doing, your business model is working right now, but it's not going to work for you over the span of 10 years. And they're just trying to get that point across. Do you think that's wrong that they're trying to go about that point to these girls who are making money while they are?
I mean, is your question?
All right, do you think they're wrong about how they address the OnlyFans situation, first of all?
I mean, everybody has their opinion. I mean, I'm coming on here just to, exercise my freedom of speech, just to.
Which is what we do here, baby. And you will always be allowed on this podcast to express your First Amendment right without fear of cancellation.
Yeah.
Ever.
So,
Everyone?
Everyone. No matter who you are.
Yes, to make sure.
No matter who you
Okay.
are. If you want to sit in that chair, you are more than welcome anytime on my show. Don't ever try to call and cancel people on my show, because I will find out. But you are always welcome on this show to express your opinion. Like, we disagree on a bunch of things we talked about in the car today.
Mm-hmm.
So what? Do you think that the OnlyFans kick in today's society, do you think that the majority of people, like Fresh and Fit, are going about it the wrong way by having these girls on and automatically criticizing, saying you're not going to make this money in 10 years?
I guess it just depends on the goal. It's like saying that, is it wrong to go and eat a bunch of calories if you're trying to gain a bunch of weight? It's like, well, no. Could you eat a bunch of calories to lose weight? Probably not. I mean, it just depends on what you're trying to achieve. So I guess if their podcast is to try to, reshape society and their views on OnlyFans, then I guess it would be okay for them to bring a bunch of girls onto their show and talk to them about how, like, hey, you think that OnlyFans is forever, but it's really not. It's like, okay, well, if that's your goal, then it makes sense. I wouldn't disagree with it. My opinion on it isn't necessarily particularly about the whole OnlyFans or just them. It's more or less the fact that I understand that what they're trying to achieve is that they're pandering to a specific audience that's listening to them. I mean, anybody would, like if I like, a certain subject and I know that the audience that I'm speaking to only listens to me because I'm talking about said subject. It's like, well, of course I'm going to talk about subjects that's going to interest them the most. So I don't necessarily disagree with that. I just don't like the fact that the way that they have to pander to that specific audience is to basically what seems like, and this is, I understand it's probably an inflammatory statement, is basically bring people onto their podcast, use a bunch of inflammatory language to upset them, and basically tell them like, hey, you're wrong and I'm right. And then laugh about the whole situation, because these people that are coming onto their podcast, they're trying to make a point, but the people that invited them onto the podcast isn't listening. They just want to sit there and be like, oh, well, I heard your point, but here's why I'm right. And it's like, well, that's not really a conversation. It's like, why are you conducting a podcast if you're not trying to expand your horizons? But maybe that's just me, So the fact is, like, if they're trying to bring these women on and sit there and talk about how OnlyFans is only seasonal, and it's because their goal is to, some kind of reformation towards the whole OnlyFans scene, then I would understand that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that if that's their goal, But I feel as though their goal is just as a podcast to grow. And so in order to do so, they have to pander to a specific audience. And in a way, by doing that, they're, in a sense, this isn't my biggest point, but is that they're basically just humiliating all these people that are coming on by just stating, like, here's why you're stupid, here's why you're dumb, here's why I don't like your perspective, and here's why I'm right. And I just don't agree with all of that.
You see, I'd make the argument that I don't think they're having people on to humiliate them whatsoever.
I mean, I don't think so either.
I think they are definitely catering to a crowd, which is what you do to be. Whenever you have 923,000 subscribers, you're obviously doing something right.
Yeah.
Which is, the algorithm that you have to use. Mm-hmm. I will make the point in saying that I think they are, in a lot of ways, right. Mm-hmm. Because the majority of the girls that come on, they do get in the defensive, which I can understand completely, because if I was being attacked by the way I earn money, then I would probably, in a lot of ways, and I'm a very woosah guy, but I'd probably be a little bit on the defensive myself if you said being a salesman is like that. But the argument that they make, a lot of these women make, is that they don't need a man for anything. That we see the world, it's a man's world, and they are capitalizing on the opportunity to do what they're doing. Which, you know what? In all reality, if you can make your bag right now while you're doing that, make your fucking bag. It's not my job or anybody else's job to tell you how to make your money. What we're saying, and what they're saying, and what I'm saying, is that there are consequences to the reality in the way that you're making money.
Mm-hmm.
There are.
Mm-hmm.
Because think about it. If you're a man with options,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a man with options.
Mm-hmm.
If I see a girl that I was interested in
Mm-hmm.
having sex tapes online,
Mm-hmm.
and OnlyFans is basically amateur porn. And don't make I hate people who say, oh, you can cook on OnlyFans. You can do this. You can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Bullshit. Let's be honest here. What do people use OnlyFans for? Porn. Amateur porn. Do I want to date a girl? Do I want to be associated with my girlfriend being an OnlyFans model, an amateur porn star? Absolutely fucking not. Because if I'm in a committed relationship with you, that means I see potential marriage with you. If I see potential marriage with you, I see a potential in having children with you. Do I want my children in 20 plus years stumbling upon the internet to see their mom naked? Do I want to be that guy at the barbecue who's all the guys around the barbecue pit have a little phone out and they're sitting there laughing? Oh, dude, I got nudes of your wife. Do I want to be that guy? Fuck no. And you know what? The reality is that is going to be the majority of these girls come 20, 30 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
It gets leaked. It will get leaked.
Mm-hmm.
That copyright that OnlyFans has does not apply unless you're trying to make another OnlyFans account using the same pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I've known people who have leaked shit on websites that have gotten deleted
Mm-hmm.
because of leaks.
I'll tell you what, to expound on your point there, Scotty, think about if your kids get into high school and imagine that your mom jokes then if they have that sort of ammunition.
Oh, dude, that'd be devastating for a kid.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be utterly devastating. Could you imagine being a kid in that scenario to where you go to school and your friends all have videos or pictures of your mom
Mm-hmm.
in her early days naked, or that's just taking pictures naked.
Mm-hmm.
If you made films with another human being,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, if I ever found that out and I'd been dating you, I would be devastated because I knew, for one, if I saw that you had porn online, I couldn't go through with the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do it.
I understand. I mean, everybody, like the conversation we were having before, everybody has their own preference. You know, it is what it is. Like if I told you that I'd only want to date a girl that was into Marvel comics, it's like, well, that's my preference. It's like, am I wrong for having that preference? No.
But is
It's
that able to
an
be
arbitrary thing. It's self-defined. It's like I've defined that this is the goal that I want to set up for my life, and it's either I can stick to it or I don't. That just is what it is. It's like, you know, I'm more of an individualist. So like I believe in the individual. Like I believe that as an individual you should educate yourself to the point to make smarter decisions, and that's all there is to it. It's like if you have a preference, it's like that's up to you. I'm not focused on like the bigger picture because I feel as though it's harder to focus on the bigger picture whenever you're trying to, I don't know, I guess, you know, whenever you're trying to achieve a goal. It's like, well, I'm not worried about.
We're gonna get set up here. Panda just made an entrance here. So me and Panda have talked about this multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we brought up last time that got me in a lot of trouble was, say you were dating a girl and you found out that she had an OnlyFans account. And she wasn't just taking pictures of her feet, taking pictures in lingerie. She was actually filming videos. Now, here's the kick. What would your scenario be if you found out? You got a text from one of your buddies saying, dude, you got to check this out. And you see a video of your girl in her past. This is her past. Like, say, let's go back 2 years before y'all started dating. 2 years. Her in a video with a guy. What would your reaction be? And you just got married. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
What would your reaction be?
Like if I was already married, or
if you just found out, and you said earlier that you'd want to know about the sexual history.
No, I wasn't saying that I'd want to know it. I'm saying that what we were saying was that you were saying that I don't see a reason to know about a girl's sexual history.
I don't.
And I was saying that I feel like there is some sort of justification for knowing. I'm not saying I'm for or against it. I'm just saying that I understand both sides. If you don't want to know, that's your preference, but I also understand knowing. And I was just bringing that point to light as to why I think some men would say that it's important. I'm not saying that's my belief or anything like that.
So to bring a little context to y'all, me and Alex were talking about in the car earlier about how your sexual history, I believe, is nothing. You should not know about it. Me and you both agree.
I agree with that.
I don't want to know about your sexual history.
I don't want to hear about it.
Yep.
Don't tell me about it.
Yep.
Don't tell me stories about it. Nada.
Nothing.
Yeah.
It's none of our business. Because one of the things that I struggle with, and y'all both aware of this, is I could not be in a committed relationship with a woman who is bisexual, who tells me she is bisexual. I couldn't do it. And one of the things I struggled with that I was telling him was the fact that if a girl that I was dating told me that she had a lesbian experience in the bed back in the day, I could not, for some reason, dude, I could not get past that. It's a hard thing to try to get past. You know, everybody has their preference. My whole thing being is everybody has something that turns them off or is a big knockdown for them. I'm a guy who, you look at that, you hear that, and it automatically goes to your mind, okay, is my woman bisexual at that point? If you had that kind of experience, and I know a lot of college girls have those nights. We all know how that goes. And a recent study shows, and it keeps on going up, that 19 to 24% of women as of 2015 have had a lesbian sexual experience. That number is going to continuously grow, like it always does. At what point are we going to sit there and say the old saying, all women are bisexual? Because if that was the case, that'd be a problem for me. A lot of people are asking, are all women bisexual? My argument is no, they're not.
Well, that actually wasn't the conversation. The conversation was that you brought up the fact that you're like, I don't feel like I should know a woman's sexual history, while simultaneously making the claim that it bothers you, or, you know, that it's your preference not to be with a girl that is bisexual. And so,
or has had a lesbian experience.
Yeah, and the problem is well, how can you? And my questions were, well, how can you? It's like, would you rather not know that she's had it? Would you rather not know that she's bisexual? Because if you're sitting here making the claim that I don't want to know their sexual history, but then sit here and say that one of your preferences has something to do with their sexual history, it's like, well, how do you, make the connection without contradicting yourself? And I'm just asking you, how do you
decompartmentalize that?
Yeah.
So what I'd say is I would want to know if you considered yourself bisexual or if you were questioning things with a woman. I would want to know that. I would not want to know if you were completely straight. You got it. Say a girl had a experience in college, got it out the way. It was a drunken night. Mm-hmm. A drunken night like that is something I would not want to know about. Therefore, you had that night. Okay, that's it. You never pursued anything other than that. You don't have to tell me about that every single partner you've had, but I would want to know if you found women attractive sexually and had thoughts about it. Mm-hmm. I would. That's something I would want to know. I would want to know if you would want to bring a woman into a threesome. Like if you'd want to have a threesome and we were in a committed relationship, you want to bring a woman in. That would tell me, that'd give me a red flag. Mm-hmm. Something right there. That's a prime example. If I'm in a committed relationship with a woman, I don't want to have a threesome with you. Mm-hmm. That's basically the gist of it. So the sexual history and the sexual orientation can kind of come together, but I'm saying I would rather know your sexual orientation compared to your sexual history. Mm-hmm. I don't want to know your sexual history. If you were bisexual, though, I'd expect you to tell me.
Say that last part again?
I would expect you to tell me if you were a bisexual woman. Mm-hmm. But if you're not, I don't need to know that you experimented in college. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm getting at. So if you're not bisexual, but you had an experience in college, I do not need to know about that experience because you tested the waters. You didn't jump out. Mm-hmm. That's the whole point.
Yeah, and I remember while we were talking about that, I had asked you the question. You're saying that I don't want to know that. I don't want to know stuff like that. And I asked you, well, what if you find out later? How would you feel then?
I would be highly upset.
It's like, so that's where I was saying that's where the justification for where playing devil's advocate for the other side of knowing it would, to some people, that's how they would justify. It's like, well, I would rather know up front rather than finding out later. It's like, I don't want to be invested with somebody and then find out later that such and such and this and that. It's like, well, that was my, like I said, playing devil's advocate for knowing that part of someone's past.
Yeah.
You know, and then I also was talking about how most people can make predictions for the future based on the past.
And, you know, like we said too, I mean, we had an extensive conversation.
It was like
Very-
an hour and a
hour and a
half.
half long conversation. But my whole point was that you've never experienced the feeling of a girl that you were truly invested in telling you that. Because I promise you right now, if you were, well, you're married, being fully invested in a woman and that finally coming out that she had some kind of sexual intercourse with a woman, that would kind of change your world a little bit, man. It really would.
And I can see that, and that's not where I guess the argument is. The idea is that you're saying, well, I never want to know.
I
But
don't.
then simultaneously
I would
say
rather
that
not know.
there's certain aspects about it that is important. And I feel as though those are two conflating views, or contradictory, I'm sorry.
How would they be contradictory, though?
Because you're saying that, well, if I don't know it, it's fine. But if I find out about it, I'm not fine.
It's the act of it. Do you enjoy the act? If you enjoy the act of being with another woman, that makes you bisexual. And that is something that I am not willing to dive into a relationship with another woman.
So I feel like I'm kind of putting you on the back steps, and I feel a little bad about that.
No,
And I'm
dude,
just curious,
dude, this is
what do you-
brother. This is UnWoKeN. One thing we don't do here is we do not apologize. First of all,
All right, fair enough.
we don't apologize. We hit the hard hammering questions, man. Go with it.
Well, I'm curious what Panda thinks about all this, because you kind of in the background there.
Yeah, no, we've had this whole conversation before. Man, I can't date somebody that I know their history. And we've talked about it. Like, I'm okay dating somebody that's tested the waters, but not full on out of proportion.
Like making out with their friends every weekend.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I dated somebody like that for a while, so I mean, I was used to it.
Well, I guess
Yeah, I could not get used to that.
Yeah.
I'll ask the question that I asked Scotty. He's saying that sexual history is not important. I don't want to know it. It doesn't matter. But then simultaneously say that certain aspects of it is important. And I'm asking him, how in his mind, how is that not a contradiction? Because to me, it seems like it, but I could be wrong, and I'm willing to accept that. But I'm asking you, what is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, it sounds contradiction.
Contradictory?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But I'm still on the same level he is. I don't want to know about your sexual past at all.
I can explain how it's not contradictory. All right. The best way to explain it is, all right, I don't want to be asked about my sexual past with how many women I've been with. That only leads to trouble. I'm not going to ask her about her sexual past. Okay? But if she openly tells me, oh, I've been with a woman before, and I did not ask about it, that's where the problem comes in, because I didn't voluntarily ask you about your sexual history. You voluntarily told me without me asking. You see what I'm saying? If I'm not asking about your sexual history, and you openly just make it a point to tell me that you've been with a woman before, that's where the problem comes in. Because there's a reason I didn't ask you about it. It matters once you tell me. But if I didn't ask you about it openly, and you voluntarily told me, that's where the problem kicks in, because there's the reason why I didn't ask you.
So I guess from what I'm understanding, and correct me if that's okay, you're saying that to a degree it does matter, but it's only when it's brought up.
Yeah.
Okay. So it seems like your justification is it does matter, but I just don't want to ask about it.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, that to each his own.
If a girl was to ever ask me about my sexual past and how many women I've been with, I say, it doesn't matter, does it? I'm with you.
I mean, if they're asking, it probably does matter to them.
It does. Oh, it does. It matters to all women.
Yeah.
But a big thing, a lot of people have a problem whenever I say that. I got confronted at Marley's about this. The fact that I said if a woman's been with a woman or if a girl's bisexual, somebody said, so what if you were dating me and you found out I was bisexual? You mean to tell me you just end it like that? I said, well, yeah. I mean, probably because you lied to me. You're going to lie to me about that. How far are we willing to go with this? And I have a lot of bisexual women that are friends. Let me tell you something. And I will hook up with bisexual girls all day. But I will never, if I decide to get married, pursue one. For the simple fact that I don't know what day you're feeling, how you're feeling one day. You should be sure of yourself, obviously. Like, to me, whenever I'm talking to a girl or I walk up to any beautiful woman I talk to, there ain't no fucking competition any day of the week. There really isn't. I'm Scott fucking Davis, all right? There's no fucking competition. No, reality, bisexual woman, there's a lot of hot women down here in South Louisiana. I don't have what they have, okay?
Like
I don't have their boobs. I don't have their vagina. If you want vagina one day, I can't give that to you. So I'd rather you go be happy and go pursue your vagina. Don't get mad whenever I tell you I'd rather be with a woman who knows what she wants.
So I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm kind of having fun playing devil's advocate.
Play it, man.
So isn't based on the perspective that you just provided that you don't know how they're gonna be feeling that day, and you don't want to have to question that if they're, quote unquote, if they're bisexual, that they could feel different on different days. Wouldn't that mean that if you don't want to know their sexual history and you ask them about it, they could tell you the truth and say that, no, I'm straight because I want to be with you? And because you don't know their history, and because you're saying that they can feel one way one day and then be the next another day, how would you know? And how would you feel if you found out that they did have this and that and blah, blah, blah?
Well, you lied to me.
No, you did, because based on your own perspective, you said that, well, they
You told me
can
you were
feel
straight,
one
though.
way.
You told me you were straight,
Well, you
though.
said that they can feel one way one day and then feel another way another day.
Then you're not straight. You lied.
But you never asked about their past.
Mm-hmm.
So how can they?
But you told me you were straight, right?
And they can
Let's
be,
say you're the
because
woman.
they're with you.
You're the woman, though.
Yeah.
You can't say you're you can't say you're straight and then end up being bisexual. You can't
Why
say
not?
that.
Why not? If I can choose how I feel.
What are you trying to say, that she can choose one day if a married?
You said
if a married,
that
so you're saying
you don't want to
married
have
woman.
to deal with the fact that they get to choose how they feel on certain days, and you don't want to have to question all that. So I'm playing devil's advocate and say, okay, if they get to choose how they feel, how would you know? If they could just tell you that and it be truthful, if they get to choose.
So one, if you said you were straight, that automatically makes me assume that you're dating me because you're a straight woman.
Yes.
If the next day you go ahead and say, oh, that girl's hot, I want to go fuck her, scissor her, then you're not straight. If you act upon that, you're not straight anymore.
On your last podcast on the Acadian Cast TikTok, someone commented asking where you get your stats. Well, I couldn't find your stat that you were talking about as far as bisexual women go, but I did find something from the Williams Institute. I think it's UCLA, but I just sent it to you if you want to look along. I got the graphic on the screen for the folks at home. This is basically anybody. It's 9 different studies it takes into account, and it's just questioning people who identify as LGB, or I guess LGB, lesbian, gay, or bi.
Guacamole.
Yeah, BLT sandwich. And it says that it shows for women and it shows for men, and it looks like the majority of anybody who, for all across the board except for one study, when it comes to women who identify as LGB, then they identify as part of that community. They're more bisexual than they are lesbian. There's more bisexuals than there are lesbian, whereas opposed to men, it's heavily more identifying as gay rather than bisexual. So that kind of supports a little bit what you're saying, where a lot of women are more so claim to be bisexual rather than full-on lesbian.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm fascinated with this because, one, I really want to know what percentage of women are bisexual in this world.
Why are you so fascinated by that?
Because I want to know what I'm getting into. I mean, I would rather know that, man. I don't want to be blindsided with anything because I've been blindsided before.
It's probably because you don't ask their sexual history.
I don't want to know their sexual history.
Well, if you're going fishing, wouldn't you like to go to an area that has more prevalent fish and has shown that there's more fish there rather than just guessing at a random body of water?
Honestly, I'm just happy casting it
You
just
just ask the water how it feels.
I'm
that
really
day.
am
That's why you have a fish
happy.
fodder.
Dude, I really am happy casting out. I am that happy when I can cast out a fishing pole.
But
That's
wouldn't you
it.
rather just ask another fisherman?
No.
And then
no,
he'd tell you his history
No.
of catching fish in
Dude,
that
my
area?
phone goes locked up in the vehicle. I sit down in my chair and I freaking fling that fishing pole out.
That's because
That's
you're afraid
it.
of falling out of the boat. That's why your phone gets
You're
locked
talking
up.
to the one guy who has sharks tattooed on him. I'm afraid of water.
I'm just saying.
The only guy who dives here, y'all two big bimbos are scared of sharks.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not.
sink. heavy. I'm like lead.
You know, the two biggest guys here.
Would you rather be cornered by an alligator, a fully, let's say, I don't know, what's a good size alligator? Like
12.
12 feet?
Yeah.
Yeah, a 12-foot alligator or a 12-foot shark?
What kind of shark?
Bull shark.
Are we on land for both?
You are in a,
Kind of water.
you're in, you're in water. Wherever these animals dwell and can potentially fuck you up, you're
Yeah,
choosing between
shark.
those two.
Shark.
Alligator.
Shark.
Do I have a weapon?
You have one hunting knife.
We're talking about a big knife or a small knife?
I don't know. Ask Scotty. How big is his knife?
I have a
Hey,
big
you have a knife on you? Knife check?
My Rambo knife?
Knife check? Knife check?
I don't have my knife on me.
Knife check?
Can
no,
I
no
use
knife check?
Scotty as
Bait?
meat shield? Yeah.
Good luck, cuz. You by yourself. I know how to get out of that situation.
That's what I'm trying to do because I can.
I know how to get out of there.
I'm
boy.
trying to make an educated decision, so we have to ask questions.
You just gotta be faster than the slowest guy.
Exactly, and
And y'all are both slower.
I can sink pretty fast. I'll probably drown.
I could
before it
swim
gets
pretty
to me.
fast, but I ain't swimming in that
You
case.
see, I say shark because I can see through the water with a shark. Yeah, alligators in that
Yeah, he never
murky
told
ass
us
what,
water.
what do you
is
mean?
that?
What do you mean? A bull shark can swim in fresh water.
No, but they're normally not in murky ass water.
Yeah, they are in
they
murky
are.
water.
Like
That's where they attack
Brackish?
most people.
yeah, brackish. It's brackish water. It's not murky water.
Murky water, I will not go into because of bull sharks.
Well, we're in the hypothetical already, Scotty. So
All right, so let's
you're already
determine
in
let's
there.
determine
which
the
would you rather,
situation.
a shark
All right, let's
or an
determine.
alligator?
All right, let's determine the situation. So we are in brackish, murky water.
Correct.
We got a 12-foot bull shark and we got a 12-foot alligator, right?
Yep.
12-foot bull shark. That's
An
fucking
alligator, right? Not a crocodile.
An alligator.
Just an alligator,
Yeah.
not a crocodile.
And you have your one hunting knife.
One hunting knife. Okay.
Serrated.
I don't think crocodiles are on this.
I'm
this
going
kind.
I'm going alligator.
Can I poo my pants? Is that an option?
That's always an option.
Okay.
I'm going alligator.
Do I have pants on or I have shorts on?
Are we naked?
You're dressed like Tarzan.
Okay. Yeah, alligator.
Loincloth.
Yeah, and I'll explain my reasoning. I'll go alligator first because one, if you get a little shiv in on an alligator, it's probably gonna go away. You get a little stab in on a bull shark, that somebody's gonna swim about 5 feet, and he's coming right back until you get out of that fucking water.
You know,
Because the animal has more testosterone than any animal in the animal kingdom, and I will not be in that same vicinity as one of those motherfuckers ever. Plus, if it's a 12-foot bull shark, have you seen how stocky those motherfuckers are? That is the biggest bull shark ever captured if it's a 12-foot bull shark.
I'm
Fuck that.
I'm gonna be honest here.
Happening, boy.
If I can swim to the land, the bull shark can't follow me on land.
Yeah, well, I'd rather take my chances with the alligator. Any day of the week. Now, a crocodile.
Are we close to land?
A crocodile, that's a different story.
Let's see. I would say you're
Far enough that we can't swim.
you're
to shore before it gets to us?
you are 30 yards away from land,
So
and you're chest deep.
Oh, so like I can stand up in this water.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna choose the. I'll choose the. What do you think would probably swim faster? I think the bull shark would probably have the advantage. So I think I'll choose the alligator. That's my thought process.
yeah. I'm not all about the death roll.
Yeah,
That's
I feel like no
crocodile.
matter what, I feel like getting the alligator, it's gonna crunch you to death. But a shark will bite you. It'll like incise you.
A 12-foot bull shark's jaws, dude, are like this big.
Yeah.
But I feel as though if we're close enough to land, which do I have a better chance of getting away from? Probably the slower of the two. And I would assume, I don't know the statistics on this, but I would assume that the bull shark would be faster.
You know what's crazy? I don't know if y'all watched Shark Week this year. They did a study because they saw a lot of sharks are now coming close to the shore. And they're starting to breach, kind of like a killer whale does, beach themselves and catch their meals. They put meat with nurse sharks. Keep in mind, nurse sharks. They put meat on the steps, the top steps of a pool. And these nurse sharks started finding a way to kind of sliver and use their fins to get to the food source out of water.
It's terrifying.
The next step in evolution? Possibly. Could you imagine that? Fucking land sharks?
It's a good beer.
Yeah,
is
it's
a
a
good
good beer. 'Cause could you just based on that study alone, dude, could you imagine that sharks are becoming more evolved to where they're starting to crawl their way back?
That's absolutely terrifying. Now, for me, I think I would go against the gator, And this is why. You know, last night I was watching House of the Dragons, the new Game of Thrones show, and they talk about the Targaryens. They want to die or a dragon rider's death. All these people ride dragons, and they do so by fire. So I feel like if I were to die in one of those scenarios, as a Louisiana resident, born and raised, I would like to die an honorable Louisianian's death by the hands of an alligator.
Man, I feel it's like, you know, the movie Jaws was inspired. People don't understand this.
Also, I like it in my scenario, like I'm not getting out regardless. I'm gonna die.
Dude,
I know.
It's like every scenario
We're
I go
rooting for
into, man.
chances here,
I'm telling you,
Exactly.
every scenario I go into, man. Look, I swear, you might get me, but you coming down with me in some sort, you will get hurt. You will get stabbed. You will get something's gonna happen to you to where you're gonna feel the pain after. If you look, it's like Ron Swanson said, he had his will. This will goes to my child or the man who kills me. And what they said, what does this mean, Ron? The man who kills me will know. Like you will be hurt, man. I promise you. If something is able to take me down, you will feel the wrath of my pain afterwards. But the whole dude, it's crazy. We're talking about animals now. That's if you ever look, the bull shark thing that blew my mind. You know how hippos kill more people in Africa than any other animal. They had a fucking 10-foot bull shark that laundered off into a river where hippos were. You know how hostile hippos are. This son bitch starts going and attacking the bull. Starts attacking the bull hippo. And the hippos all start trying to stomp on it the entire time. Bull shark swims away about 10 feet, keeps coming back at the same bull. Just keeps coming back for some more. It said, you're in my spot, son. You are in my territory now. I just find... You remember Grand Theft Auto? Whenever the big guy, I forgot his name. I think it was Grand Theft Auto 4, the big bodybuilder. He's like, it's not steroids, it's bull shark testosterone, man. They have more testosterone than any animal in the animal kingdom. And they just freaking, their primal instinct, man. That's what they're my favorite animal. They just fucking attack. They take it. They're going to fucking go at it. They will go after whatever the fuck they want.
My favorite animal, well, sea animal would probably be the mantis shrimp. That thing is...
The mantis shrimp.
I think is godlike for animals.
Why?
Yeah. Have you ever heard or saw one?
Who are you, Logan Paul?
Huh?
You Logan Paul now? He likes a shrimp.
I don't get
Logan Paul.
it. I know who he is.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, a mantis shrimp, it's like a giant shrimp, and it looks more like a lobster, but instead of having claws sideways, it has it in front of it like that, and it's punchers. Right, and so like what it eats is mollusks, right? And so like you think like the way that it eats food is it goes up to the shell and it kind of cracks open the shell, and then it eats the mollusk out of it. But it's not actually how it kills its prey. What it does is that whenever it punches its prey, it moves so fast that it causes cavitation bubbles to basically implode, and it's so hot that it creates light underwater. It's a process called sonoluminescence. But after
sonoluminescence,
because the light that's produced from the heat of these super cavitation bubbles, and it punches the mollusk, and whenever those cavitation bubbles, whenever they implode, the shock wave actually liquefies the mollusk on the inside of the mollusk, and then it uses its punchers to break the shell and drink the mollusk out.
You know what's even crazier than that?
Its punchers are the equivalent of the force of I think it was what is it? It was a small like a small caliber of bullet. I can't remember what it was.
20?
No, I think it was like
380.
No,
22?
Like I think it was 22. I think that's what it was. But it was like they did a study that if we had 1/8 of their strength, that we could toss a baseball into orbit.
You ever seen the cone snail?
Yes.
That's terrifying. Somebody who dives, that is terrifying.
So I found some stats on alligators and sharks and how fast they swim. Looks like from faunafacts.com, they say the alligator can swim up to 20 miles per hour in the water. And then for sharks, it is the bull shark swimming can attain about 25 miles per hour on average.
So I was right. My better chances are with the alligator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going shark all day. One bop to the nose. That's all it takes.
With a bull shark?
Yeah.
I feel like
Just
if you got ate by an alligator, people would just be like, yeah, that's what he gets for living in Louisiana. But if you got ate by a bull shark, people were like, this guy's probably lived a crazy life.
Well, you can't ever. So a lot of people.
There is a stigma against alligators, and the people who around them.
Hey, people seem to forget that the movie Jaws was inspired by the 1912 attacks on the Jersey Shore in the rivers of 5 people dead in a span of a week. That wasn't from a great white shark. It was from a bull shark. And they thought it was a rogue shark theory, which is why a lot of sharks were killed. The rogue shark theory is the theory that there's one shark who is targeting humans as prey, which, in all fairness, that is a very false equivalency because the rogue shark theory has never been proven to anybody. But they said it was a great white that was killing these 5 people. It was a bull shark that was able to swim in fresh water that back then they didn't have the medicine. So long story short, the entire Jaws movie wasn't predicated off of a great white shark. It was based off of a bull shark attacking people in the river. And a lot of sharks died because of it. And Peter Benchley felt horrible after the novel was turned into the movie. He said he felt horrible about it, even though it's one of the greatest movies of all time. But the greatest line of all time, the greatest line in a movie of all time is, "You're going to need a bigger boat." And I don't care what you say. That is the greatest line ever said in a movie. And
I don't know.
It was
I would
improvised,
argue
too. Roy Schneider improvised that line.
The greatest quote in the
Name
movie
me
is,
one greater line than that.
"Give me your boots, your jacket, and your motorcycle."
No. That's too long. You really think that that's better than "You're going to need a bigger boat"?
I don't know. I like "This is my safety."
No.
Yep.
What line was more impactful?
"This is my safety."
What happened after "This is my safety"?
I don't know. They shot a bunch of people.
Okay.
It was Black Hawk Down.
Great
Somalia.
movie.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Oh, can I change my answer?
Go ahead.
I think the greatest quote in movies is "Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, swimming."
We're having a serious discussion
I
here,
don't even know
sir.
what movie that is.
That's
It's Finding Nemo.
Oh.
A serious discussion, and he brings up Finding Nemo.
He touched the butt.
But you know what? Talking about the portrayal of alligators versus sharks. Look, sharks get a whole freaking week on Discovery Channel. It's so fantasized about. Jaws obviously was an iconic movie. What does alligators have? We have a show about
Lake Placid.
millionaire inbreds in South Louisiana hunting gators.
Lake Placid.
That's not nearly as cool.
Well, no, because sharks are cooler.
I'll tell you what we do have, and you'll see it on screen right now. It's a movie called Sewer Gators. You can check it out on Amazon Prime. It's the exact same plot as Jaws, but shot in South Louisiana, and it's featuring gators. The gators go through the sewer and eat people's assholes. Go check it out now on Amazon Prime.
I want an invoice into them.
That's a movie me and my buddies made.
Really?
Yeah, we make like super cheap independent horror movies, and that's one of them. Our next movie is called Killer Kites that we're about to start shooting this weekend.
You have a role. You have a lead actor right here.
Hey, if you want to be in it, let's go. We need actors.
Bullshit.
Look at that. Now you can add that to your resume. Scott Davis, actor, Lord, podcaster, asshole.
Douchebag.
Cancel this man.
Cancel me. Please. That way I have to stop coming in to see Carter's face.
Yeah, the funny part is I own all this equipment, so I get to plug whatever the fuck I want whenever I want. So, although he does edit it, so he could theoretically cancel everything we just talked about in the past 5 minutes.
Just keep it to the sharks and the
That's where the
alligators.
Lord. That's where the Lord title comes in.
You got to keep it PG. Talk about the alligators and the
But
sharks.
oh man, damn, that was a really interesting interesting topic that you just brought in there. Just threw us for a loop.
Yeah, you want to be in a movie?
I'll be in the movie.
If how about this? Here's a question for everyone in the room. If you were to have somebody, an actor that's pretty well known to this day, or maybe even dead, to play you in a movie, who would it be?
Chris Pratt.
Taylor Lautner.
I don't know actors.
You know,
Lost. I don't watch a lot of TV.
you know faces.
Nope.
Chris Pratt.
Maybe a couple, but like not like just out there.
I can see myself as Star Lord. Same music taste. Yeah.
I've actually been told my entire life that I look like Taylor Lautner, so it's kind of be insulting to say anyone else.
Kinda, dude. Kinda.
Well, I'm fat now, but back then, whenever
You're
I
not
was younger-
fat. You're fluffy and big bone.
Yeah, it's heavy on my bones is what it is.
You're not fat.
Yeah.
Taylor, I can see. Panda, you can't name one actor.
Can't name one. Will Smith. I can name Will Smith.
Yeah.
I think for obvious reasons he won't be playing you in a movie.
I feel like
Yeah, dude, that'd be whiteface.
I see an exact.
That'd be
villain.
whiteface.
I mean, I could see it.
I don't know.
I can see the
Let's theorize this. Let's see who could play Panda.
Jonah Hill.
Oh, that's a little messed up. I know who that is too, but that's a little messed up.
Starts just naming just a bunch of like heavier set.
Well, that's the thing. Jonah Hill goes from skinny to fat within a period of months. So yeah, he could be skinny or fat.
I'm
You
not
know
gonna
what,
lie to you.
Alan?
One of the greatest actors, in my opinion. I'm sorry, I got Christian Bale, one of the greatest actors of all time. I'm sorry. If you really pay attention to his dedication to a lot of movies,
American
it's
Psycho.
absolutely ridiculous.
Dude, him and as Dick Cheney was like terrifying.
Dude, go look him up as the mechanic. He was anorexic. He literally did not eat for days, and then turned around and went and did the first Batman movie.
He's the machinist.
The machinist. I'm sorry, but yeah, he did that, and then turned around and was Batman right after that. Had to put on like 100 pounds, and then had to lose it again. And then he was just recently in that movie, Thor: Love and Thunder.
I didn't see that. I heard it sucked.
It did
Dude,
suck.
you cannot recognize him in half his movies. Him and probably either Robert Downey Jr. or what's the guy that I'm drawing a blank? Johnny Depp. Three,
No.
like, if you go and you watch their movies, they're almost indistinguishable from the other. In my opinion.
Yeah, they could transform into another person.
Yes, that is insane. I would argue that Christian Bale does that to the extreme.
Well, guess what? The Dark Knight was made by Heath Ledger.
What do you mean?
Heath Ledger is the greatest acting performance of all time. The Joker with Heath Ledger is the greatest acting performance of all time.
I would say his best performance.
No, I would say arguably the greatest performance besides Brando in The Godfather. Besides Brando in The
What
Godfather.
about Brokeback Mountain? Are we not going to talk about that?
Never saw it.
Nope. Don't even look at me. I haven't seen it.
It's a good movie.
Yeah, it's a wonderful movie. You should go watch it.
Why would I want to go watch a movie about two gay guys?
Wait, are you just...
It's just two boys out on the ranch,
It's just
out,
two
out in the
cowboys,
mountains.
yeah,
You know,
just
just do cowboy shit,
running the
dude.
ranch, man. You telling me you got something against cowboys? That's a...
No, I got something against gay cowboys on the screen.
Anyways.
Bigot.
See what I'm saying?
Hey, I'm honest.
Just contradicting all over the
I
place.
saw everything I needed to know about Brokeback Mountain and Scary Movie 3.
So you're telling me that...
Between Kevin Hart
knowing
and
that,
Anthony
you're
Anderson.
like, yep, that's the greatest performance I ever heard.
Yeah, it is. Still to this day.
And then reprimand him for having that role.
I didn't reprimand him. I just said I'd never see the movie.
You said you don't want to see the movie.
I don't want to see the
But
movie.
he's the greatest actor of all time. Why
No,
would you
no,
watch the
greatest
movies?
performance.
Greatest
Greatest
I said
performance.
greatest performance was in The Dark Knight.
I s-
You said greatest actor of
No,
all
greatest
time.
acting performance of all
Okay,
time.
fair enough. Okay, so we're making the same
Can't
point
catch
here.
me slipping, son.
I
This
did
is my
earlier.
show,
I
man.
did
No,
earlier.
but then you changed your mind.
I didn't change nothing.
No, I changed it.
I just clarified your point because you were contradicting yourself.
But
and
then
I
you
was
said
just
I
like,
wasn't.
Let me throw this dude a bone.
It's all right. We got the film. We'll go back to the tape.
Bring it up.
We'll
Because
go back to the
you're
tape.
you'll see it. My point stands. I just clarified your point and realized that I just took out the contradiction. But you made a contradiction, which is it is not important, and then turn around and says it's important.
No,
That's a
you made me
contradiction.
clarify what you thought was a contradiction that you conceived to be a contradiction.
And I just helped you out, help you make that point more clear.
Is that what we're gonna stick with?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you slide. You see, you're coming into the lion's den, baby. It's all right. It's all right. It happens to the best of people. It happens to the best. No, it still is the greatest acting performance of all
I'm
time.
gonna watch this later, and I'm gonna be like, I know you said that, but I'm gonna give it to him for now.
You're poking the cup.
But I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I kind of wanted to go back on a point that you were trying to make earlier. My disapproval of the way that Fresh and Fit conducts
Yep.
their podcast.
I agree with. I want to let you know that I agree with a lot of the ways they do it, though.
I won't sit here. I want to clarify myself when I say that. It's not to say that I don't think that they make some relevant points. It's not to say that I disagree with everything that they say. My point is that I disapprove of the way that they conduct themselves on their podcast. And I find that it's like, if you are going to invite someone onto your podcast, regardless of their profession, I feel as though why you would want to do that is to broaden your horizons. That's what's interesting to people. It's like, I don't want to watch someone who's just going to keep making the same point over and over again every single time. He talks to a different person, but makes the same point and then reiterates how he's right just because he can confirm his bias. That was another thing. You know, like just because you could look up statistics on whatever perspective you have on whatever matter, it's like, well, that is your bias. And it is called confirmation bias. Just because you can find information to confirm that bias does not just make you right.
Fresh and Fit. He's calling you out, Fresh and Fit.
Now, real quick, for those who don't know Fresh and Fit, can you just briefly explain the premise of the podcast and the type of things that they talk about?
So most of their, from what I saw, because I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I watched all of it. All right. It's just, I keep seeing little clips on YouTube, which I would say to their credit, they're all over the place. They're blowing up. They're very popular to a certain audience is what I'll kind of addendum there. But the idea is that what they do is they bring mostly not mostly, but they bring on different characters, but mostly what they're bringing on is a bunch of women and different men. And then they basically just sit there and make the point as to, because I'm not going to say that, because the idea is that what they talk about is basically different. But mostly what I've saw is that they basically pander to a very specific audience. And that audience, I would argue, is a little bit more on the misogynistic side. And they will argue left and right that the claims they are making is not misogynistic. And I will argue that just because you can find statistics that backs up your misogyny does not necessarily mean you're out of the water. And they will sit there and ask women on their show, define misogyny. If you look up the definition of misogyny, it is hatred, contempt, or prejudice of women. And then what they will do is they will sit there and bring out all these statistics and sit there and say, well, these statistics state this, or if you read these statistics, you'll come to this conclusion, which in return is a prejudice towards women, that I should be prejudiced towards women because of these statistics. Well, that's confirmation bias. That does not necessarily make you right. It does not necessarily make the women that are arguing against your perspective, it does not necessarily make them wrong. It's just a matter of, why are you bringing these women onto your podcast just to sit there and argue, well, I'm right? Why would you want to do that? Why would anyone in their right mind want to have a conversation with someone just to sit there and, I would argue, yell at them? Or, I mean, they don't necessarily yell. I'll take that back. But basically just sit there and just reiterate multiple times how I'm right in my perspective and you're wrong. Why would I want to keep conducting conversations or podcasts or whatever you want to call it with that person if all they're going to do is just sit there and talk about how they're right? If I want to talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and you bring up some statistic about that and then sit there and say, well, I'm right about it and you don't like it, well, then you can get out of here. It's like, why would I want to keep talking to that person? Because I know what they're doing is they're pandering to a specific audience, and that audience likes to see that they want their perspectives broadcast and then have someone convince them that they're right in their perspective. And that's why I would argue, is why they're so popular. And I just don't agree with it.
So you think that they're misogynistic because of the fact that they bring up multiple studies to prove that they're right and they're not using other studies along with that?
No, it's because they use statistics to back up their prejudice towards women.
All right. No, but their prejudice isn't towards women in general.
If you watch their podcast, most of it is about, oh, here's how men are better than women.
They're not saying that. They're saying, from what I gather.
Oh, no, if you actually go and you watch their podcast, whenever they have Sneeko on, Sneeko will sit there and make the claim, who improves more, men or women? And then they'll just sit there and argue about that. But in a way, there's a certain quote out there that everybody's trying to be better than the next. You're playing one of two games. You're either trying to be better than the next person, or you're trying to act like you're more humble than the next person, which by default makes you better than them by your standards. So you're still better in some regard.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask you.
What's up?
Who built the world we live in?
Everybody.
Men didn't contribute more.
Women and men contributed to everything.
So men don't take jobs that are more demanding, more gross, more dangerous.
They do.
They do.
Yes.
So do you believe in a gender pay gap? Do you believe that women are paid less than men for the same job?
That you're throwing a lot at me at once. I'm not.
Would you say that the job force is more discriminatory against women compared to men?
I don't have any kind of research or anything on that, so I don't necessarily have an opinion on that.
So one of the things that they argue, Kevin Samuels, especially, in terms of going back to the OnlyFans thing, that, yeah, you make your $150K a month doing OnlyFans. However, that's not going to last a while unless you smartly invest it. Which, let's be honest, it's not going to happen. You're not going to. A lot of people aren't going to invest that money. The reason a lot of women now, one of them brought up a point today that said, "Well, I can go ahead and go to the sperm bank and I'll raise that child on my own." Or women, we decide we're had enough of men's bullshit. That's why we leave the house. Last podcast, I said the number one privilege any person in this country could have is growing up in a married household. It's the best thing you can grow up in. The misogynistic point, these guys bring, correct me if I'm wrong. You say it's misogynistic. I think they're absolutely right in terms of men have built this country. Men have built the world. Yeah, together we have. Men commit suicide at a higher rate. Men get imprisoned more at a higher rate. I think that people saying that there's a toxic masculinity in this world, I think that is a horrible point to bring up. Because think about it. As a man, and we don't make excuses. We're not going to make excuses here. I could feel down one day. I ain't going to sit there and bitch about it. I'm going to go out and handle what's mine. That's what men do, right? That's what we do. Are you going to do that? As a man, if you're feeling down one day, you know you got a wife at home that I'm not going to say relies on you because you have a very beautiful, smart, and successful wife.
More successful than me.
All right. But you're still going to do whatever it takes, right, to provide. That's your manly instinct. Do you believe at the end of the day, your instinct built inside of yourself, your goal, the thing that keeps you driven every day, is to go out there and try to provide for your family? Would you agree to that?
Yeah, I guess.
You guess? Let me rephrase it. You know that no matter what you do, every day you're going to come home feeling high and mighty that you did and achieved what you had to do to provide for the woman that you love.
I try.
You try, which is what you do every day. Do you think that these girls that come on, fresh and fit, that do the OnlyFans, they work maybe 2 or 3 days a week, they get paid $150,000 a month? Do you think they have any plan in course for what's going to happen in the future? Do you think that they value what a man can do for them at any point? Because let's think about it this way. You talked about it earlier in the car. Status is what gets you women like that, right? Women look at status of a man. Say there's an actor, all right? Jonah Hill. Say Jonah Hill, you got a guy like Jonah Hill, and then you got a guy like Scott Davis, okay? Jonah Hill is making millions a year. Scott Davis is making thousands. The woman's going to be more attracted to Jonah Hill because of his status. I could be way better looking than Jonah Hill than what I am. I'm very better looking than Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill has a status, though. So a woman's going to gravitate more towards him because he has that status. He has that money. How is that any different than these guys saying that men have built this country and a hardworking man deserves the same level of respect as a guy like Jonah Hill? How's that different than them being, what's the term for not misogynistic towards women? Do they even have a term for being exploited, for men being exploited? Is there even a term?
Sexist. I think there is. I remember hearing it.
And we don't even know it, right?
I mean,
we don't even
I
fucking
heard
know it.
Just Pearly things. She talked about it. That there is a word for it. I just can't remember.
It's called misandry.
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 How many of you motherfuckers knew what misandry was?
Can I get a definition, please?
Can you use it in a sentence?
Can I get the word of origin, the point of origin?
Misandry is the hatred of contempt for or prejudice against men.
I think it's about 70% of women now.
It is the antonym of misogyny.
But no, I'm being serious. The thing is, I see a lot of guys make these posts. You don't see men cry. You see men cry nowadays. Men show their feelings more nowadays, this and that. I think it's bullshit.
So
my job as a man is to take care of what's mine, to go do what I got to do to make myself happy once I'm happy. Because you don't provide happiness for me, woman. You're not my source of happiness. I'm my source of happiness. I make my own happiness. You are just an asset to my life.
Have you met my wife?
A woman is an asset to your life. A woman should not be your source of happiness ever.
Mine is.
Well, good for you, man. Good for you. But I'm just saying, a woman will never be my source of happiness.
She's awesome.
A woman will never be
Shout
my
out.
source of happiness.
Are you saying that a woman can never make you happy?
A woman can make you happy, but she's not going to be my source of happiness. I should be happy myself and go into a relationship to share that happiness with her. We should be on the same level of happiness.
So here's the full Wikipedia definition of misandry and the background on it. Bear with me real quick. Misandry is the hatred of, contempt for, or prejudice against men. Through a series of books published in the 2000s and 2010s, religion scholars Paul Nathanson and Catherine Young argue that misandry is commonly seen in North America and the demonization of men as a result of women exercising power through feminism. Nathanson and Young give as examples many cultural tropes that diminish men. In the internet age, users posting on manosphere internet forums such as 4chan and subreddits addressing men's rights activism, MRAs, claim that misandry is widespread, established in the preferential treatment of women, and shown by discrimination against men. This populist viewpoint is denied by sociologists, anthropologists, and scholars of gender studies who counter that misandry is not at all established as a cultural institution, nor is it equivalent to misogyny, which is many times more prevalent in scope, far more deeply rooted in society, and more severe in its consequences. Scholars criticize MRAs for promoting a false equivalence between misandry and misogyny. The modern activism around misandry represents an anti-feminist backlash of hatred against women promoted by marginalized men.
You should do infomercials.
Thank you.
I didn't get the origin of the word.
It's from a fucking book, Panda.
That is the biggest crock of bullshit I've ever heard in my life.
I can see why you get canceled.
That is the biggest crock of bullshit I've ever heard in my life. This misandry. All right, let me tell you something, dude. I'm going to say it again. This feminist movement fucking sucks. This new feminist movement has taken women a step down, is what it does. It makes them look lower. Women have made strides. The reason why there is a pay gap, I'm going to say it again, men are more willing to do dangerous jobs, more willing to do the dirty jobs, more willing to go in and out above of what they're comfortable with in order to make that money to bring it home. All right? The moment you're willing to go be a plumber, if you're a woman, go be a plumber. I'm sure there are female plumbers. I don't hear of them. Tired of this bullshit notion that men have to be in touch with their feelings.
He's got to get some
I'm
off his
tired
chest,
of
and
this
it's not
shit.
his chest there at this
We're
point.
making men weak. We're creating a generation of weak, pathetic losers is what we're doing. We're creating losers. All right? Losers who don't get laid, who watch fucking Pornhub and spend $50 a fucking year on OnlyFans, who buy Pornhub Premium's account, who have Brazzers accounts. We're creating fucking jacking off in their left and right hand losers. Weak individuals who don't know what the fuck they're doing when it comes down to the bedroom, who don't know what the fuck they're doing when it comes down to life because they're fucking weak and pathetic sitting in the basement with fucking Cheeto crumbs all over their fake ass beard drinking root beer. It's bullshit. It is utterly bullshit, and I'm tired of it. Crying over all the fucking, your girl left you, big whoop. My girl left me. Shut the fuck up. Or out there that you can go to. Let it sit for a little while. Go talk to your friends and go out and get laid. I'm tired of seeing it. I am tired of kids complaining about being coached hard, having to run sprints after practice because you fucked up, didn't make the grades. You're fucking talking back to coaches. You're talking back to your parents. You're talking back to your teachers. You're talking back to grown adults. You don't have no sense of respect. You don't have any respect for authority. I'm tired of seeing it. It's become a problem. It's going to continue to be a problem until parents step up. And that's a lot of parents our age. Step up and parent your children like our parents did. Whoop your child. Took my mom one time to whoop my ass. That's it. I came from a household, dude, that I was raised in a household with two sisters, my mom, my grandma, my dad. Look, I grew up in a household for the majority of my life with two parents. I was very lucky in having that. They divorced, but they still found a way to make it work. They instilled in me that a man does what a man has to do. Okay? Now you should be able to talk about things. Let's be honest. You should be able to talk about certain things. Dad passed. They had people come and check on me at the KA house and freaking shifts to make sure I was all right. Which that is something that I should have got off my chest whenever I was hurting. That was a feeling that you should get off. But you should confide in your buddies about that. You know why? Because your friends will eventually, once you start talking about something enough, They're like, dude, you've been telling us about this for a long time. Okay, what are you doing about it? What are you doing to make yourself healthier and better as a man? What actions are you taking? Okay, your friends will tell you that. Your straight up friends will tell you that. A woman, all right, dude, breakups suck. We get that. I get that. Breakups are some of the hardest things to get over. And no matter what anybody tells you, they'll be hard to get over. But you spend a week getting it off your chest, then go out there, man. Come on. Go out there and take care. Go have fun. Your buddies are there for a reason. That's why a bromance is so much different than anything in this world. It's like having a dog. It's like having a dog.
I don't think so. The dog doesn't talk back to you.
Well, the dog's loyal. Your bros are loyal. Loyalty weighs in on a lot of these things. All right? That's why you surround yourself with the same people that you want to have in your life, the good people that you have in your life.
I'm just be honest with you. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of your points. I don't feel
Which
as
ones?
though, like, well, for one, well, let's just say that I don't think the argument to something is to counter it. I don't think that's it's like you think that I argue this point, so I'm going to make a stronger point on this side. And I think that the best way to conduct, I would say, civil discourse is to try to bring the two sides together, not to just exacerbate one side and to try to counter the other side. It's like, well, you're wrong and I'm right. It's like, I don't think that should be how anyone should want to. I think the best perspective is always one that takes into consideration both sides.
Let me ask you this, though. If we keep going on this civil discourse ambition or venture, if we keep going on the civil discourse venture, where we don't call out all the fallacies in all this new age movement that's become what it is, or we're going to keep going in this direction. That's the whole point of this show, though, is because we have to get going in a different direction than what we're going in right now, because it is causing a problem. It's causing a stir in our society.
By great words by King Leonidas from the movie 300, women create Spartans, meaning men go to war, but women raise those men.
We don't have the women Spartans anymore.
But the idea is that it's both.
Except my mama.
And I think that it's not necessarily. I don't think the best way to push against the status quo is to make a stronger argument in the opposite direction. I think that it's a meaning of understanding, because you're more likely to listen to me if I understand your perspective. But I also would hope that you would try to understand mine. And the only way that we can come together is to actually have a discussion about it, so that way we know what the best way to move forward is. But I don't think to disregard your point to make my point stronger. I think both of us should have valid points. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just because I can find a hole in your argument does not necessarily make you wrong. I think that if I'm going into battle, say intellectual battle, but let's use it as a more of a, how would you say, like from a medieval perspective, it's like if I'm going in a battle and I have a full set of armor on, right? I would rather spar with you and you tell me, hey, here's where all the chinks in my armor is, right? Meaning, oh, on your elbow, on your left side, on your Achilles tendon, on your right foot, you have weak points on that spot. Well, then now I have two options. I can either bolster my defense on those areas, or I can try to formulate a strategy that how would I say, kind of not ignores, but addresses that concern. Maybe there's something I can't do about that particular weakness on my armor, but maybe I can, maybe the way that I fight defensively more on those sides where I don't allow my opponent access to those areas. But I don't think that if you're sitting there telling me, hey, you have this weakness right here and your weakness right there, it's like, okay, well, I don't like that perspective, so I'm just not going to accept it. And then I run out into battle, and the first thing that's going to happen is someone's going to shoot me in the Achilles tendon with an arrow, and then I die right away. Yeah, I mean,
but you say we're sparring though.
Yeah, because
so if we're
that's
sparring,
what civil discourse. That's what civil discourse.
But if we're sparring, why would I expose my weaknesses to you?
I think that if we're sparring, the whole point of a sparring match is that we want to better each other's understanding of combat.
But still, why would you expose your weaknesses?
Because I would rather expose it to someone who has my best interest in mind rather than exposing it to the actual threat. When the actual threat would be life. The actual threat is if I move forward in life and my perspective is wrong, I could die. But if I know that something you said that instead of disregarding it, I use the application of that knowledge to better bolster my defense against life, then it would increase my chances of survival. So the battle would be life, but the sparring session would be a civil discourse.
But why not learn how to guard those weaknesses yourself?
I wouldn't have found out those weaknesses unless you pointed them out to me.
Exactly. Why would I expose them out to you?
So the idea is, my point is that I feel like the coming together should be sometimes the idea is that you should want both offense and defense. It's like, I want you to understand that I am still a strong knight, but simultaneously I want your perspective, because you're going to see things that I don't. And by you explaining to me what the differences are, and, oh, if you're really in combat, I could have really taken advantage of that and I could have killed you for those weaknesses. It's like, well, I understand that I am strong, but simultaneously your perspective of pointing out where I'm weak will also help me. And the only way for me to come to that conclusion is I have to have an understanding of your perspective. But I can't see your perspective unless I'm willing to.
But are you willing to see my perspective past my weaknesses once I expose them to you?
Well, I just made that point that I'm willing to accept my own.
I'm saying, are you going to accept mine? Are you going to accept my weaknesses instead of? Are you going to look at my weaknesses?
If me and you are sparring, and that's.
But are you going to look? But are you really going to look at them and say, I know where your weaknesses are, and I'm not going to say I put you in a corner, and we're sparring. Now you're cornered in. You know where my weaknesses are. You're telling me right now you're not going to attack those weaknesses whenever you're backed into a corner.
That's the point of the sparring session, is to bring to light your weaknesses, so that way it won't rear its ugly head, the actual threat, to take advantage of it. That's the point of the sparring session. So I want to tell you what your weaknesses is just as much as I want you to tell me mine. Does it mean that you're not strong? Yes. It means that you are strong, but you could be stronger. And the only way to do that is I need your perspective along with mine. And I think that that's the best way to go about civil discourse.
Well, my whole argument is, but your primal instinct
is to survive.
All right. You're backed into a corner. I've exposed those weaknesses to you. You're going to attack them. No matter what you say, I'm
not going to attack my own weaknesses.
You're going to attack mine.
But if we're in a sparring session.
It doesn't matter if you're in a sport. Have you ever been in a wrestling match?
If me and you were in battle, meaning this was a fight to the death, and I notice your weakness, of course I'm going to take advantage of it. But I don't think that's the point of civil discourse. I think the point of civil discourse is the sparring match before the actual war, which is life itself. We want to know, how do we conduct ourselves in the society that we're bringing about, which is improving at a rate that we've never seen before.
You think society's improving?
I would say that it's evolving at a rate that a lot of us can't necessarily keep up with. We don't know what to do in times like this because things are changing so rapidly. By the time you get a grasp on how you should function, things have already changed. So the idea is that I want to know what is the best course of action. The problem is that as things evolve, they become unpredictable. So I don't know what the best course of action is. I can guess based on my history, but the problem is that I would rather eat my pride and ask you for your perspective, even if I don't necessarily agree with it, because there might be something in what you're saying that might help me increase my chances of survival. And the only way to do that is through civil discourse. Civil discourse and actual life are two completely different things. Me and you sitting here having a conversation is completely different than me going out in the world and trying to find my way around and figure out what I'm supposed to do. I don't know what to do, and I don't think a lot of people do. I think that if you knew what to do and you knew how to get to wherever you want to be the fastest, the best way to increase your chances of survival is to bring along as many people as possible, because that would be your army for battle. I don't want to go into battle alone if I don't know how many people I'm going to be going up against. And people, I would say, more or less predicaments that the future you can't predict.
So you said Spartan women make Spartan men, right? So the people you're bringing into battle or the Spartan men that were brought up. Do you think that today's actual generation of men, would actually be comparable to what a Spartan woman would raise, though? It goes back to my same point.
So I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not necessarily agreeing with this whole leading question. It seems like you want me to answer in a particular manner, and my whole thing is men and women can take charge in different ways.
Absolutely. 100%. Nobody's arguing that.
And the idea is that I want my woman to be able to help me, in my in my chances to succeed, and I
Absolutely.
want her to do the same, because the more I do for her, or the hope is that the more I do for her, the more she'll do for me, and vice versa, meaning that's the mutual respect that partners should have. And that's what I feel like a lot of people would agree with that. I want my partner to want my best interest at heart, and if they have my best interest at heart, we should all want the same for each other, because two heads are better than one, if you want to argue that, right? But the idea is that in some cases, I may know less about a particular subject than someone else, and I would hope my partner would know more than that. Now, can I ask for help from outsiders? Probably, but the idea is that everybody's going to have distinctive advantage in different situations. If me and you are going into battle and you're a better fighter, I would want you to lead. But if Panda over here is a better survivalist and we're stuck in the jungle, I want him to lead. It does not mean that you're less of a man. It doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means that he's probably better at it. And I want to focus on keeping my chances of survival as maximally as possible. So if it means giving up the reins or not taking charge in certain situations, then that's what I'm going to do. And I feel like a lot of people understand that point. It's just, it's more symbolically rather than actual. It's like, it's hard to sit here and conceptualize, all of these ideas that we've moved away from for, thousands of years. It's like, well, it's kind of in us in a certain manner. So I think that both parties, everyone has some kind of part to play. It's just, when is that person going to have their opportunity to bring their particular skill set to light, so that way they can help as many people as possible. Now, does that disregard the dispossessed, meaning the people that are at the bottom of whatever totem pole you're in? Does that mean that there's not going to be dispossessed, or there's people at the bottom that can't contribute? And what do we do about those? And that's really the question that everyone should be asking, which is, what do we do in order to increase our chances for everyone's survival? So that way, because maybe the dispossessed, maybe if they got a little bit of help, they might be the future leaders. And the same goes for, different people who are different leaders. Should they lead in all aspects? It's like, I would argue no. I would argue that if Scotty's a better, combative, or you're better at combat, then I would want you to lead in a fight. But I would want Panda to help me increase my chance of survival if we were stuck in the woods, right? So I think that everybody has a part to play, and sometimes it's a matter of trying to figure out how to manage that through discussion.
So you think my whole point in saying is that a man should take lead with everything? Is that what you kind of gathered from what I said? Like, no matter what the situation is?
No, I think it's like, if I were to answer that question, it felt like it was leading me down a certain path that I didn't necessarily want to.
No. I wasn't trying to lead you in any way.
Which is it. What it would sound like is that men should take charge, and I
believe they should.
My point is that I think that everyone should take charge whenever their particular expertise or what's going to increase everyone's chances of success.
And my whole point in being that whole soliloquy that I put up too, but dude, that's why I wanted to bring you on, honestly, because you're very elegant with your words, and that was beautifully said. God knows you make great points. My whole point is, we're talking about today's society. Today's society has lost the ability to create leaders.
I'm saying that today's society is rapidly evolving, and nobody has you cannot write a book on what is the correct way to navigate society today, because the moment you come out with that book, somebody's going to come out with a different book.
I could tell you exactly why.
And both of their books would be correct, but they would be correct at different times. So if me and you, I'll use my turtle example that I like to tell people. If me and you are in a cave and me and you are both turtles, right? I have the perspective of, we need to leave the cave in order for us to go and find food to eat to survive. Because if we stay in the cave, we will eventually perish and die of starvation. But your perspective is that it's only safe in the cave. If we go out there, we're predators, we are going to get eaten and die.
That's
Both
not my
of
perspective.
us. What do you mean?
It's not my perspective.
No, I'm just using it as a hypothetical.
All
Obviously,
right.
You're also not a turtle, Scotty. So the idea
But
is,
if I was, I'd fucking eat whatever came my way.
if I were a lion, I'd go and eat your tuna and bang your tuna girlfriend. No, I'm just kidding. It's from the other guys.
Yeah, procreate.
The idea is that both of our perspectives is right. It's just one will be right at one time and the other will be right at a different time. And we basically have to flip a coin on who's right at what time. Because if we go out and there are predators, then we get eaten and we die. But if we don't leave the cave, then we starve and we die.
Actually, whoever's faster gets eaten.
I completely argue that. I completely argue that because I think we're turning the evolutionary clock backwards.
My perspective is that both.
You said
of
we're
us,
evolving, though. We're not evolving.
We're evolving.
We're not evolving.
I guess changing might be a better word to use. I feel as though we are having technological advances at a rate that we've never seen before.
An example of human advancement, though. So
you're talking about human
Okay,
evolution, or are you talking about
human
technological
evolution.
advances?
Human evolution.
So they just cloned
A dog.
they just cloned a wolf in China.
But that would be a technological advance.
All right,
It's
not
a-
technological. Yeah, we
human
got the new
evolution.
iPhone. I'm saying human evolution.
Human evolution is going to take, Jesus Christ, a long time.
Mentally.
What I'm saying is that, the only reason why we are having a mental evolution is because society is rapidly changing. That is my perspective.
And I'm arguing this for the worse.
I'm not arguing if it's for worse or for better. I'm saying that we don't know what the correct way to navigate our situation is.
I think
And
I
so
can tell you.
I don't feel as though that one person is not wrong and the other person is right. I think that everybody's perspective to some degree will have some kind of significance, and it just depends on the time itself as to who's right and who's wrong. And the only way to actualize that is to live it out in real life. If I tell you that you can get success in the real estate market and someone else tells you that you can get success in the investment market, both of us would be right, but at different times. If the market crashed and investments were going up, then the investment guy would be right and the real estate would be wrong. But if the real estate market was up and the investments were going down, then the investment guy would be wrong, and the real estate would be right. The times are changing so fast that we cannot definitively answer that question as to what the appropriate way to move forward is.
And that's to procreate what we're put on this planet.
But
to
yeah,
do.
that's
But we're not procreate. Whenever you're teaching children to go backwards, you're allowing children to pick their gender and take hormones at a certain point. That's the whole point. We're going backwards as a society. We're not going forward.
I'm saying that we are moving rapidly, or we're changing
Backwards.
rapidly.
Backwards.
I'm not going to sit here and say whether it's forward, backwards, sideways, up, down, left, right. To me, as far as I'm concerned, we don't know what the best course of action is. And I would argue maybe people are trying to figure out what that best course of action is. And the only way to find out is Schrodinger's cat. You might find out a little bit too late. Schrodinger's cat basically dictates that if you put a cat in a box and you leave it in there, you don't feed it, don't put any water, and you open it up after a week or two or set amount of time, after long enough, the cat is both alive and dead simultaneously. The only way to know for certain is to open the box, right? Which means that some people are trying to dictate, here's how society should be moving. And another side is saying that here's how society should be moving.
Well, how about fraud? How about fraud putting in people who are prison guards, regular everyday people, putting in people who would just comply to be prisoners, and allowing the people who are guards to take control of the entire situation, and the people who are prisoners to sit back and take whatever kind of punishment they want to take. How about in society we're doing that instead of being Schrodinger's cat? We're taking people and conditioning them to think that their opinions aren't valid, that they have to just take whatever anybody's saying and listen to it and go along with it.
No, what I'm saying is that different people have different perspectives on how society should function.
But yeah,
Right.
but it seems like we're doing more of the fraud study compared to Schrodinger's
Well,
cat.
what's going to happen is going to be one of two ways. We're going to either find out because it's going to reach its natural apex, or everything's going to go correctly and everything will be fine. The only way to find out for certain, like I said, might be a little too late. Just like in in the Soviet Union and Maoist China, they thought, here is how society should function.
Well, they're both actually kind of working like that, though.
Well, I'm talking about back during World War II and all that.
But you kind of have the same situation right now. You got Xi's China, the Communist Party. That's putting Muslims in prison camps, and you got Putin's Russia.
Yeah.
It's the same situation.
I'm not
almost.
referencing right now. I'm referencing history.
I know, but I'm saying history's doomed to repeat
History-
itself, right? So we're in that same situation.
Joseph Stalin basically, let's say, hired a bunch of informants.
Killed more people than Hitler. Horrible person.
Yeah, and nobody really knows that or even pays
44.2 million people Stalin killed.
But what happened was he believed, because he got a perspective from, I believe it was either Lenin or Karl Marx. I can't remember whose
Karl
perspective
Marx.
it was. But whoever it was, he got his perspective from them. And he said, here's how society should function. And here's what I would, if I were in power, here's how I would like everything to go. And here's how I'm going to structure everything.
How's that different than now, though?
And then he got into power. And then he basically said, here's how I feel as though everything should go. And then he made that as close to reality as possible, right? And then what happened was it led to the deaths of millions of people. So at that point, we kind of learned you probably shouldn't do that. Or most people, if you're humane enough, you'd probably argue you probably shouldn't do that, because I think any humane person, meaning, you know, you actively, you know, praise human life or whatever, however you would define that, they would argue that it's probably anti-human to want the deaths of millions of people. So meaning if you don't want that particular outcome to happen again, then just don't have that particular perspective. But the idea that I'm trying to get to is that everybody has a particular perspective as to how society should function. And the problem is, in my opinion, is that we are seeing technological advances that we have never seen before in the history of mankind, and it is changing more rapidly than anyone can predict, and it's getting to the point where it's moving so quickly that everybody is just in this place where they feel as though either a lot of people don't know what to do, and then some people feel as though they have the answer. My position is that some may be right and some may be wrong. And the only way to know that for certain is they have to act it out. But by the time you act it out, it might be too late. I'm not saying that the way that we're moving today or anything in that is right or wrong. I'm saying that everyone has a particular perspective that might be conducive to forward movement, as you would say. But the problem is we won't know whether or not they're right until it's too late.
Then why would we want to wait to get to that point?
Because you don't know. No one can predict the future. How would I know whether or not you have the right perspective?
We take
How do
history.
you know? Huh?
We learn from history.
But things are changing so rapidly, it's literally impossible to calculate any kind of future predictions based on, it's like if you think about what life was like 50 years ago, they didn't have birth control, right? So the idea is that 50 years ago, they couldn't predict the way that women were going to be, you know, or how society was going to be functioning today, because no one could have predicted the you know, scientific, discovery of birth control.
But that leads to a problem, though, if we're saying we're going to go in that direction, because we're going to ignore history. We literally have people teaching Marxist theory. Putin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Putin pretty much going around the same route without killing people like Stalin did. We're teaching Marxist theory in college campuses. And this is what we're getting at. What I'm saying is history repeats itself. All right, we can't just sit back. This is why this whole show was created. We can't sit back and let Marxist theory come back and look at Venezuela. Venezuela is a prime example of that. That's Marxist theory that we're allowing to come back. We're allowing college campuses to teach young people like us. What do? We sit back and let our whole economy fail and turn into Venezuela? Our whole society fail? That's what we do? We sit back and say, oh, well, it didn't work out this time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do? We let it fail?
I'm not saying what to do or what not to do. I'm just saying this is how that technology is you wouldn't say advancing, but is changing things so rapidly. It is making it more difficult to predict how things should be projected into the future. That is my claim, and the problem is that we don't know who's right until it's too late.
But that's my whole argument I'm making against it, though, is because we know what doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
We know Marxism doesn't work. We know communism doesn't work. We know socialism doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
That's our whole thing with our society.
I'm not saying that all of that is right, or I mean,
none of it's right.
Yeah, but I'm just making the observation that you think that if you have some kind of opposing opinion, it means that you have to convince them why you're right. And I would never agree with that, because I feel as though the only way for you to be right in an argument is to actualize it in reality.
And I disagree, because I think that now it's looked upon, if I disagree with the status quo, it's looked at as proving my point.
Right. But if, say, we lived in Scotty's world and everything fell apart.
We'd be thriving.
But say everything were to fall apart. That would be the only time that you can definitively say that the way you think and your perspective is wrong. But if we don't live in Scotty's world and we don't all share your perspective and your motives and your morals, then the idea is that, well, we don't share that perspective. You may be right and you may be wrong. We don't know.
I'd be right. Well, one last thing to get off. The whole point in the way I disagree with you before we wrap up is that Schrodinger's cat, that seems to be how you like to base, if I'm being correct, how you like to base what you're farming. You know, we don't know until we put ourselves in that situation.
Not exactly. My whole point was that I disagree with the way that Fresh and Fit conducts their podcast because they want to bring these women onto their podcast and just basically
bait them like fish,
and then tell them that they're wrong.
My whole point is that the Sigmund Freud's case. I think a Sigmund Freud, we're taking people who are more happy. They're fine with being told what to do by a certain group of people who have no place to tell them what to do, and they're fine with it. And then you have people who come along and ignore the status quo and fight back. And that's where you get this show. But this is going to be a two-part conversation because you're a brilliant human being, and we might disagree. But, hey, dude, that takes balls. We have to wrap up. This takes balls to come on here and give your point of view, so I respect the fuck out of you for doing that. You have to come back on the show. Maybe we have to go back at it. Hey, would it help to imply that we're both a team when it comes down to sales? So it shows you, this is the beautiful thing about this show, folks, is that two people who have different views on certain things can sit here and get along. It's a beautiful thing whenever you actually have a conversation. Yeah, it gets heated on certain points. But at the end of the day, you're about to hop in the same car and go to the sales appointment, which is beautiful. Welcome to UnWoKeN, if you haven't. Yeah. As always, folks, Carter Simno, the producer extraordinaire, right behind the camera. Show me face.
I showed them my face.
Okay. Panda. Alex Meja. I'm Scott Davis. This is UnWoKeN. God bless. Take care. I'll see your asses next week.
This podcast is powered by Acadiana Cast Network. Go to acadianacast.com for more South Louisiana sourced content.